Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the disappearance of Andrew Gosden? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, consider supporting me on Patreon, and check out my podcast. I will put the relevant links in the description for this video. So first I'll go through the background of Andrew Gosden. I'll move to the timeline of his disappearance, then offer my analysis. Andrew Gosden was born in Doncaster, South Yorkshire, England, on July 10, 1993. His father is named Kevin, his mother Glenys, and he has a sister named Charlotte. Growing up, Andrew didn't leave the house too often. On the rare occasion when he would always tell his parents where he was headed to. Andrew did exceptionally well in school. He maintained a perfect attendance record in high school. He was in a gifted program which was reserved for the top 5% of students in terms of their academic performance. When he disappeared, he was headed for straight A's. It appeared as though Andrew had an exceptional mathematical ability and was actually somewhat bored in school. This is common for people who are really good at math. Andrew was looking forward to greater challenges in the future, which included going to Cambridge and studying mathematics there. Andrew had poor eyesight. He wore strong prescription glasses. He also had poor hearing. He was deaf in one ear. He had a pronounced interest in video games and liked heavy metal bands. Even though Andrew had owned several cell phones, he lost all of them, including one he had been given on his 12th birthday. At the time Andrew disappeared, he was 14 years old, but he was small for his age and looked about 2 years younger. Not long before he disappeared, he expressed an interest in dyeing his hair black. Naturally, it was brown. Andrew was a Cub Scout, but a few months before his disappearance, he told his father that he didn't want to be active in that group anymore. Now moving to the timeline of the disappearance. During the 2007 summer break, Andrew's parents recommended that he travel to London to visit his grandmother, but Andrew was not interested. He returned to school in September. In the days leading up to his disappearance, Andrew broke from his routine by leaving school and not taking the bus. Rather, he walked 4 miles to get home. He did this on 2 occasions. During the evening on September 13, 2007, he worked on a jigsaw puzzle with his father and watched some comedy shows on TV with his mother. The next morning, September 14, 2007, Andrew had trouble waking up and seemed irritable. He typically woke up on time without incident and was in a good mood. Andrew left his house at 8:05 a.m. A witness noticed him walking across Westfield Park to the bus stop. Andrew did not get on the bus. Instead, he walked to an ATM at a nearby garage. At this location, he withdrew 200 pounds, 14 pounds shy of everything he had in his bank account. That particular machine would only permit withdrawals in 20-pound increments, so it may have been that he would have preferred to take all the money out, but he could not. A neighbor's surveillance video picked up Andrew making his way back to his home. At this point, he took off his uniform and put it in the washing machine and placed his blazer and tie on the back of a chair. He changed in different clothes, including black jeans and a black t-shirt. He grabbed a bag that had patches from various musical bands on it. Andrew took a PlayStation portable console, his wallet, and his keys. He did not take anything else, including the charger for the PlayStation, 100 pounds in cash he had saved from Christmas and birthday presents, or his passport. At 8:30 a.m., Andrew once again left his house. This time he was seen walking down Littlemore Lane toward Westfield Park. He made his way to the Doncaster railway station, where he purchased a one-way ticket to London for about 31 pounds. The woman who sold him the ticket informed him that the return ticket was just a half a pound more, but Andrew only wanted the one-way ticket. Witnesses saw Andrew board the train to King's Cross Station at 9:35 a.m. He was alone. A woman who sat next to Andrew remembered him. She described him as being focused on playing his video game console and remaining quiet. At Andrew's school, teachers attempted to report his absence to his parents, but they dialed the wrong number and left a message with the wrong person. So apparently there must have been some type of list, and they read either the number above or below Andrew's parents. Andrew arrived at King's Cross Station at 11:20 a.m. 5 minutes later, he left out of the main entrance. There has never been another confirmed sighting of Andrew Gosden. Because the family was not notified by Andrew's school about him not showing up that day, they sat down for dinner believing that Andrew was in his room doing his homework or in the finished basement playing video games. Both behaviors were common for him. When they realized that he was not anywhere in the house, they thought that maybe he was at a neighbor's house or with a friend. Perhaps he just lost track of time. His parents contacted a few friends. They all said that Andrew was not with them. They also mentioned that he had not been in school. Andrew's parents called the police at about 7 p.m. Andrew's family and friends searched for Andrew, including the route he typically used to go to school. They didn't find anything. The police discovered that Andrew had traveled to London. They contacted relatives of the Gosden family in London. None of them had seen Andrew. The police investigated the disappearance for quite some time. Andrew was never found. Andrew's father, Kevin, claimed that the police initially suspected him as being involved in Andrew's disappearance, thereby wasting time they could have used to focus on the surveillance video. The police cleared Kevin and all of Andrew's family members of any wrongdoing. Now moving to my analysis. There are some possible sightings of Andrew that are of some interest. One witness said that they saw Andrew at a Pizza Hut on Oxford Street. This was 2.6 miles from King's Cross Station. Other witnesses saw Andrew in various places around London, including sleeping in a park 4 days after he disappeared. In 2008, a man visited a police station in Leominster. It was in a business park and kind of out of the way, so visiting that station shows a deliberate effort. It was strange to select that particular location. The man used an intercom and said that he had information about Andrew Gosden's disappearance. He left before the police arrived. Later, a person claiming to be that man wrote an anonymous letter to the BBC and talked about a possible sighting of Andrew in Shrewsbury. Nothing came of this lead. All of the sightings of Andrew Gosden are unconfirmed. Andrew's bank account was never accessed after the withdrawal he made on the day he disappeared. The police inspected every device that Andrew could have possibly had access to, like electronic devices. They were probably expecting to examine a lengthy search history and try to pick up on suspicious terms, but as it turns out, their job was much easier than that. Andrew had not been on the internet at all. It wasn't a matter of a low number of searches. There were no searches. He did not use his computer at home. He did not have an email address, and he never connected his PlayStation to the internet. On August 2, 2008, a 16-year-old boy disappeared from London. His name is Alex Slowly. He was also gifted in the area of mathematics. It is believed that he disappeared 2 miles from King's Cross Station. So this makes it seem as though there could be some type of serial killer who is abducting people who fit Andrew Gosden's profile. As far as Andrew Gosden's personality, he was described as exceptionally intelligent, gullible, not streetwise, and absent-minded. He had a fairly stable mood, was quiet, shy, and mature. He could thrive being alone, but he wasn't a loner. He had a small group of friends, although his time socializing with them was restricted to in school. It's been reported that he was not depressed and not bullied in school. Let's take a look at the theories of Andrew's disappearance. Theory number 1 is that Andrew traveled to London to visit museums or other similar attractions. Even though Andrew stayed home pretty much all the time, he had been to London with relatives. He was very familiar with the public transportation system available there. At the time of his disappearance, he could travel on the buses in London for no charge. There were no sightings in any of those locations. The evidence working against this theory includes the fact that Andrew disappeared. Most people return from visiting museums. You can't buy a one-way ticket into a museum. It always comes with the option of exiting. This theory explains why he went to London, but not why he is missing. Also, Andrew turned down an opportunity to travel to London during the summer, and he had perfect attendance in school. If he was doing something that would normally be available to him as an option, why destroy his record of perfect attendance. He could have visited London on a weekend with his parents' permission. It makes more sense that Andrew was participating in an unsanctioned activity, one that his parents would not have ever permitted under any circumstances. This takes us to theory number 2, which says that Andrew was in London to attend a music concert. He did have an interest in music. He was a fan of heavy metal bands, as I mentioned. One band was playing at a venue within walking distance of King's Cross Station. There was a canal nearby. One version of this theory would be that he went to the concert and somehow fell into the canal. There was another band from Finland that had a promotional signing at a store in London on September 17. The band helped with the investigation, but no leads were generated. I think this theory has the same problem as theory number 1. Andrew could have sought permission. There was no need to sneak around to go anywhere in London, whether it was to a concert, to a museum, or some other location. Theory number 3 is that Andrew wanted to start a new life. One of his favorite television shows featured a character who faked his own death and did just that, started a new life, began a new adventure. Perhaps Andrew was inspired by that character and wanted an adventure of his own. I'm sure Andrew watched a number of television shows. We know he played video games. There are a lot of behaviors featured in those products, which Andrew did not attempt to imitate. In the modern world, it is quite difficult to run away with just a little bit of money and start a whole new life. Theory number 4 is that Andrew traveled to London to bring an end to his own life. Andrew put his uniform in the washing machine and placed his blazer and tie on the back of the chair, as I mentioned. This could be interpreted in 2 ways. One way, he wanted to make sure that people would not start looking for him too soon. Like he wanted to make sure he could get away with whatever he wanted to get away with without people coming and looking for him. He was stalling for time. The parents would see what he did and think that he was home. The other way of interpreting this would be that he was intending on coming back. He wanted to conceal the fact that he was absent, like sneak back into the house and act like he never missed school. He was trying to make it look like his routine was being maintained. Also, Andrew left his PlayStation charger at home. I think he was intending on returning home at some point. With all this in mind, this theory is certainly a possibility. One could argue that the one-way ticket Andrew purchased was a metaphor for this behavior, the idea that he wanted to end his life. But I don't think this is the most likely explanation. Why travel to London to end his life, and why withdraw money before the trip? Also, based on the reports from the people he encountered and from the surveillance video, he didn't appear to be distressed. The last theory, theory number 5, is that Andrew communicated with somebody who had ill intent, like a serial killer. Not somebody that he encountered along the way, but somebody who was there at the beginning of this whole situation. As I mentioned, there is no indication that Andrew ever used the internet, although he could have used it when he deviated from his normal route home on those 2 separate days before his disappearance. Maybe he went someplace like a friend's house or an internet cafe. Another possibility is that Andrew communicated with someone using a non-electronic method. If there was a perpetrator, the person could have lived near Andrew and simply spoken with him. I think it shows how pervasive electronics are in society, that some people look at this case and think there could not have been a perpetrator without an electronic footprint. Who on earth would actually verbally communicate with another human being, like it was a tactic from the Stone Ages or something? To some degree, I kind of see their point. Even if somebody was talking to Andrew, one would think that there would still be some type of electronic record that would have memorialized their contact. For example, if the perpetrator was using the pretext of attending a concert to lure Andrew to London, how did Andrew buy a ticket? He did not have an email address. Did the perpetrator purchase a ticket for him or pretend to purchase one? Now, when thinking about all the evidence and contemplating all the theories, which theory do I think is correct? One thing that is clear is that Andrew's own actions initiated his disappearance. He pretended to go to school, he backtracked to his house, he withdrew the money. It was his own behavior that set the stage for the disappearance. The real question is, was there somebody else who facilitated his disappearance, who was pulling the strings behind the scenes, who manipulated Andrew? Could this person be responsible for not only Andrew's disappearance, but the disappearance of Alex slowly? I lean toward the theory that there was a perpetrator involved in this case, so theory number 5. Andrew's actions necessitated a lot of initiative and motivation. This was a bold move, something he had never done before, one that certainly would have resulted in him getting in trouble with his parents and with school officials. I think that Andrew was motivated by an external influence, probably another person. After theory number 5, the next most likely theory would be theory number 2. He wanted to see a concert. Something terrible happened to him when he was there. Then I would go with theory number 1. He went to a museum or other similar attraction, and again, something awful occurred. After this, I would move to number 4. He wanted to end his life. And theory number 3, he started a new life. I think that theories number 4 and 3 are very unlikely. What lessons can be learned in this case? This case is such a mystery. There's a lack of evidence, which makes it hard to figure out what happened. One thing that we know for sure, however, is that Andrew did something very unexpected, totally out of character, perhaps on his own or motivated by another person. I guess the lesson here is that anybody can surprise us with their behavior in both positive and negative ways. Whatever it was that Andrew desired, he did not want to share it with anyone else. He wanted to experience it on his own, away from observation and scrutiny. Everybody has the potential to keep a secret. Those are my thoughts on the case of Andrew Gosden. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching. So I've had a few questions about the book in the background there behind me. This is my new novel. It's a fiction book. It's called Harm Reduction. And it's a story mostly about a serial killer and a mental health counselor. There's also a police detective that's featured prominently in the book. So the idea for this book, I think I thought of it something like, I don't know if it was 4 or 5 years ago. It was a while ago, like the early idea for the book. And then it went through many different versions, like it evolved quite a bit. And I started writing like on a regular basis, like putting this together in early 2020, and then really started writing a lot in like the summer of 2020. And it took me a long time to put it together. Who would have thought that writing a book was so difficult? This book was a real change from my usual writing style. I wrote the other book on serial killers. It's a fact-based book. And that came pretty easily for me. Like, that made a lot of sense to me, how to put that together. Writing fiction is much different, harder for me, and more difficult for me. But it came together pretty well. It took a lot of editing and rewriting and throwing chapters out, adding more chapters in, redoing like the whole outline and just kind of messing with the order of things and just trying to get it all straightened out. It just really took a lot of adjustments. Before I started with the actual writing, like putting the chapters together, I did several months of just arranging the outline, like the different elements of the story. I think that was around 10 or 12 pages of outline just there to try to straighten it all out, to keep it organized. I want it to be a story of a serial killer and a counselor that was realistic. I mean, obviously it's fiction, but I wanted it to be something that could happen in theory in the real world. It's, of course, extremely unlikely that it would happen, but just something that was possible. And, you know, I look at other books out there, other books on serial killers or other killers. They're wildly unrealistic, like it's not even close. It's hard to suspend disbelief long enough to enjoy the book, at least for me. So I wanted a book that didn't have that limitation or that characteristic. Although I think there's certainly a place for books on killers where the killers are doing unrealistic things. I mean, that's okay. This is just my style. So I think that if someone's looking at a fiction book and they normally have trouble suspending disbelief, this would be a good choice. But even if somebody can easily kind of move into that fantasy world, I think this book still is pretty entertaining. I'm really happy with the final product. It was a lot of work. I hear these stories of authors out there who they write a new book like every 45 days or 90 days. There's no way I could do that. No matter how many books I wrote, I could never write that quickly. So if this seems like something that would be of interest, you can order the book. I'll put the link in the description. I really hope you enjoy it. Again, I put a lot of effort into this to make it into a very concise and precise product, even though, again, it is fiction. Kind of brought fiction together with precision, the best that I could anyway, to really, I hope, produce a pretty good product on serial killers and on mental health counselors, kind of bringing those worlds together. So again, I'll put the link in the description. The book will be coming out in September of 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So this book I have here is a advanced reader copy, not for sale, as indicated on the back here. That's actually in the cover. It's not a sticker. I can't take that off. That's actually in there. So anyway, that's the book. I hope that answered questions about it. I'll be talking about it more in the future, I'm sure. As always, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.